The most bizarre history that will shock you. Did you know that some of the strangest moments in human history were not accidents? Or myths, but real events that shaped the world in odd and unexpected ways. History is often told as a line of great wars, kings, and inventions, but beneath those pages hide stories that make you pause and wonder how humanity ever managed to move forward. Let's step into that strange side of time. Our first stop takes us to France in the early 18th century. The streets of Paris were alive with whispers of a strange man who seemed to never age. He wore fine clothes, spoke every language, and appeared at royal courts across Europe for decades without a wrinkle or mark of time. They called him the Count of Saint-Germain. Some believed he had discovered the secret to immortality. Others claimed he was an alchemist who could turn metal into gold. Even Voltaire once joked that the man was over 300 years old. Wherever he went, he dazzled nobles with jewels that glowed unnaturally bright. His past was unknown, his future uncertain. Yet his presence echoed through every hall he entered. When he died, or rather when he was said to have died, his body vanished from the records. Years later, witnesses swore they saw him again, dressed the same, speaking the same way, untouched by age. Let's float over to another curious chapter in the book of bizarre history. In 1518, a small town in Strasbourg faced a mysterious plague, but not of disease. People began to dance. It started with one woman named Frau Trophia, who stepped into the street and began moving to music no one could hear. Within days, dozens joined her. Within weeks, hundreds filled the streets, spinning endlessly until exhaustion took them down. Some danced for days without rest. Musicians were even hired to calm them, but it only fueled the madness. No one knew why it began or how it ended. The dancing plague, as it came to be called, remains one of history's strangest unexplained outbreaks. Let us glide east to China, where in the 9th century, an emperor ordered something that sounds too odd to be true. Emperor Ai of Tang decided that the royal library as books had too much dust and not enough beauty. So he commanded that every book be rewritten with golden ink. Thousands of workers spent years on this royal vanity project, while the empire itself crumbled around him. When the treasury ran out of gold, he demanded that temple statues be melted down for ink. Within a few years, rebellion swept across the land, and the dynasty fell. Some historians call it one of the most extravagant disasters in recorded history. Now let's drift across oceans to the early days of the American colonies, where fortune seekers chased wealth in strange ways. In 1690, a man named John Law convinced France that he could make gold grow from paper. He founded the Mississippi Company, promising riches from the New World. Shares were sold, the public rushed in, and Paris was swept into a fever of greed. Within months, paper money flooded the market. Prices soared, fortunes bloomed overnight. Then it all collapsed. People who had believed they owned pieces of paradise found only worthless notes. Riots filled the streets, and John Law fled in disguise. It was one of the first great financial bubbles of modern times, and its echo can still be felt in markets today. Let's pause for a moment in the quiet streets of medieval Italy. Here we find a town where one man's unusual wish turned into a bizarre tradition. In the city of Lucca, during the 14th century, a nobleman named Castruccio Castracani ordered that his favorite horse be buried with full military honors. The townspeople obeyed, building a tomb and holding a procession fit for a night. When Castruccio himself died years later, his followers placed his tomb beside the horses as if they were companions on some eternal ride. To this day, locals still whisper that the spirit of the horse is seen pacing near the old city walls whenever storms pass overhead. Now let's turn to England and a tale of science gone strangely wrong. In 1783, a man named George Stratton decided to test gravity by floating sheep under balloons. Inspired by the Montgolfier brothers' first hot air flight in France, he believed animals could be trained to fly. He attached balloons to sheep and set them free over his fields. The experiment ended in chaos as frightened sheep scattered across the countryside, landing in ponds and haystacks. The idea was mocked for years, but it opened early discussions on animal testing and flight safety. Let's travel back further to ancient Egypt. Amid the golden temples and stone pyramids lies one of the most unusual royal decrees in history. Pharaoh Akhenaten banned the worship of all gods except one, the sun, Disk-Aten. But his reforms did not stop there. He ordered that no one should speak the names of other gods or carve their images. Artists were forced to change their work, and priests were stripped of power. The entire city of Thebes was abandoned to build a new capital dedicated to Aviation, For nearly 2 decades, Egypt lived under this radical rule until Akhenaten's death. Then his memory was wiped from history and the temples of the old gods rose again. Archaeologists later uncovered fragments of his forgotten city buried under the sand still holding secrets of his strange one-god dream. Now let's cross to Europe again, where a royal obsession turned into a bizarre legacy. King Charles VI of France believed he was made of glass. He refused to let anyone touch him and wore reinforced clothes so he would not shatter. Courtiers had to approach him slowly and softly so as not to alarm him. For years, the kingdom was ruled by advisors while the king hid behind curtains of fear. His condition became a symbol of fragility and power, reminding the world that even kings can break under the weight of their own minds. Let's end this part with one more curious story from the heart of the Renaissance. In Florence, artists were competing to create wonders never seen before. Among them was a man named Leonardo da Vinci, who decided that art alone was not enough. He built mechanical lions that could walk on their own and open their chests to reveal flowers. He designed self-moving carts and wings meant for human flight. While some of his creations worked, others failed spectacularly. Yet every failure became a seed for the inventions that would shape the future. Each of these moments shows that history is not only about war or empire. It is also about human imagination at its strangest. In every century, people have dared to dream in ways that defy reason. From kings who believed they were glass to alchemists who never aged, the past is filled with odd wonders waiting to be rediscovered. Let's flow back into time where the line between genius and madness was almost invisible. Our story opens in the court of Russia's most eccentric ruler, Tsar Peter the Great, a man obsessed with progress and control. Peter decided that to modernize his empire, he must first modernize its people. So he issued one of history's strangest taxes: the beard tax. Every Russian man with a beard had to pay for the privilege of keeping it. Those who refused had their beards shaved off in the streets. Men carried small copper tokens stamped with the image of a beard to prove they had paid the fee. It was not just about fashion. Peter wanted to drag Russia into a new age, and to him the old ways were a burden. Yet behind the laughter and confusion, his decree marked the start of deep cultural change. Now let us glide across to the Ottoman Empire, where another ruler's fascination turned into a legend. Sultan Ibrahim, known as Ibrahim the Mad, filled his palace with cats, dozens of them. He believed they brought good fortune and held secret wisdom. He even built miniature thrones for them and ordered servants to fan them during the day. But his strangest act came when he decided to select his next concubine by weight. He lined up hundreds of women and chose the one who weighed the most, believing her size signaled abundance and prosperity. His rule swung between brilliance and instability until his own court turned against him. History remembers him not for conquest, but for his strange affections and unpredictable reign. Let's drift west again to France and meet a man who turned appetite into infamy. His name was Tarari. Born in the 18th century, he could eat anything, literally anything. He devoured baskets of apples, whole eels alive, and even stones and candles. His hunger was endless. The army recruited him as a spy because he could swallow secret messages and retrieve them later. But the plan failed when he was captured and nearly executed. Doctors studied him, trying to understand his condition. They found that his stomach stretched so wide it could hold a feast for 10 men. His life became a grim curiosity, yet also a window into the mysteries of the human body. Now let's move to Japan during the Edo period, where silence held the power of survival. The Tokugawa shoguns ruled with absolute order and banned many forms of public expression. But artists found clever ways to resist. They painted hidden messages in fans and umbrellas. Some crafted pillow books with secret drawings that could only be seen in candlelight. Others invented the art of ukiyo-e, the floating world capturing forbidden pleasures in scenes of beauty and mischief. These quiet rebellions kept creativity alive even under strict rule and gave birth to one of Japan's most iconic art forms. Let's float over to the ocean, where one of the strangest naval stories ever told unfolded. In 1919, the British Royal Navy captured a German submarine named UB-65. What made it famous was not its design but its curse. Sailors whispered that the boat was haunted. Before its final mission, the commander was crushed by a torpedo door. Another officer fell overboard and drowned. When the submarine was found drifting unmanned off the coast of Ireland, witnesses claimed they saw a ghostly figure standing on its deck. Whether true or not, the legend of UB-65 became a symbol of the eerie silence that follows war. Now let's journey into a scientific mystery that changed medicine forever. In the 19th century, doctors struggled to understand infection. Some believed disease came from bad air, others thought it was caused by invisible seeds. Then came a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis, who noticed something simple yet shocking. Women were dying in childbirth when treated by doctors who had just come from autopsies. He ordered everyone to wash their hands before touching patients. Death rates dropped immediately. But his idea was mocked. No one believed him. He died in despair, yet years later his discovery became the foundation of modern hygiene. Sometimes the most bizarre ideas are the ones that save lives. Let's wander to Italy again, where a strange visitor came to the Vatican in the early 17th century. His name was Athanasius Kircher, a Jesuit scholar who claimed he could speak with demons through machines. He built strange instruments that produced haunting sounds and said they could reveal the voices of spirits. He collected fossils, mummies, and musical birds. He even designed a magnetic clock powered by the Earth itself. Many of his inventions were forgotten, but his curiosity inspired later scientists to explore the limits of sound and magnetism. Some call him the first man to dream of the modern museum. Now let's move to India under the rule of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. He was fascinated by the natural world. Every day he ordered artists to paint the animals and birds of his kingdom with perfect detail. But his strangest hobby was keeping a zoo of justice. If someone was accused of a crime, they were placed inside a cage beside a wild animal. If the animal stayed calm, the prisoner was declared innocent. If it attacked, they were guilty. This odd system of divine judgment lasted only a few years, but it shows how imagination and superstition once shaped even the most powerful courts. Let us pause for a moment in colonial America, where an unusual event took place in 1804. A man named Timothy Dexter published a book called Asterisk, a pickle for the knowing one's asterisk. He wrote it without punctuation or grammar, claiming readers could place marks where they pleased. The result was chaos on paper, yet it sold out. People bought it for the absurdity. In the next edition, Dexter added an extra page filled only with punctuation marks so readers could sprinkle them as they wished. Today his book is studied as one of the earliest examples of literary satire. Now let us glide to Denmark, where an inventor named Poul La Cour tried to capture the wind. In 1891, he built one of the first wind turbines, but his goal was not to produce electricity. He wanted to store the wind itself. He believed air could be liquefied and reused as energy. His experiments failed many times, but they paved the way for modern wind power. What seemed bizarre in his day became a cornerstone of clean energy a century later. Let's close this part in a strange and quiet corner of the world. In a small village in the Alps during the Middle Ages, people built bridges by burying living roosters under the stone foundations. They believed the spirit of the bird would protect the bridge from collapse. Centuries later, archaeologists found bones beneath some old bridges, proving the ritual was real. It was a reminder that faith and fear often guided the hands that built our world. Each of these tales seems unbelievable, yet everyone is drawn from the record of human history. They show that curiosity, superstition, and courage often walk hand in hand. The bizarre is not the opposite of progress. It is the strange shadow that follows it. Let's float once more into the stream of time where the unusual hides behind every empire and invention. Our journey begins in England during the Victorian Age, a period filled with progress, discovery, and eccentricity. Among the many oddities stood a man named Sir George Sitwell, who tried to reinvent food itself. He banned salt and pepper at his dinner table and served guests meals flavored only with roses and lavender. He even designed his own recipe for perfumed beef that smelled like flowers but tasted of soap. His house was filled with handwritten instructions forbidding laughter at breakfast and whistling after sunset. To his neighbors, he was a strange aristocrat, but to historians he became a symbol of the era's obsession with refinement, pushed far beyond reason. Now let's glide east toward Germany, where one of the strangest scientific experiments ever attempted took place. In 1749, an inventor named Ewald von Kleist discovered that electricity could be stored inside a glass jar. But he did not know how powerful it was. When he tried to test it, he received a shock so strong that he fainted on the spot. The device was later called the Leyden jar, the first capacitor in history. Scientists across Europe began shocking themselves in curiosity. Some claimed the electric jolt cured illness. Others used it for entertainment. It was painful, it was dangerous, and it marked the birth of the electrical age. Let's drift to the deserts of Arabia, where legend meets record. In the 10th century, the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim bi-Amr Allah ruled with a mind full of mystery. He banned grapes, then later ordered that only grapes could be eaten. He outlawed women from leaving their homes, then one day demanded that all women go outside and sing in the streets. He rode through Cairo at night destroying lamps because he believed darkness brought purity. His strange decrees frightened even his followers. When he vanished in 1021, some believed he had ascended into the heavens. Centuries later, a sect known as the Druze declared him divine, and still honor him as a figure of eternal mystery. Let's move toward France once again and meet a woman whose obsession shaped early aviation. Her name was Sophie Blanchard. She was one of the first female balloon pilots in the world. Tiny in stature yet fearless in spirit, she flew high above cities in a delicate silk dress waving to crowds below. Napoleon himself named her the official aeronaut of France. But her favorite flights were at night when she would light fireworks beneath her balloon to dazzle spectators. It was breathtaking and dangerous. In 1819, during one such show, a spark ignited the balloon. She vanished in flames before thousands of onlookers. Her story became a tragic legend of courage that pushed the limits of human flight. Now let us float to the far north, where a strange battle unfolded not between nations, but between soldiers and birds. In 1932, Australia faced an invasion of emus. After World War I, soldiers returned home to farms overrun by giant birds that destroyed crops. The government declared war on the emus. Machine guns were set up in the fields. Yet the birds outran the soldiers and scattered across the plains. After weeks of failed missions, the army gave up. The emus had won. Newspapers mocked the campaign, calling it the Great Emu War. It remains one of the most bizarre military episodes in modern history. Let's turn our gaze to a quieter but equally strange invention from the same century. In 1929, a man named Hugo Gernsback unveiled a device he called the isolator. It was a giant helmet meant to block all sound and sight so riders could focus. Only a small slit allowed a glimpse of paper. He claimed it would create perfect concentration. Photos of people wearing the device spread through newspapers and magazines. The invention never caught on, but it inspired generations of science fiction authors to imagine the connection between machines and the mind. Now let's drift to ancient Rome, where one emperor's obsession with art took a peculiar turn. Emperor Nero considered himself a gifted musician and forced audiences to watch his endless performances. Citizens pretended to faint so they could escape the theater. Some even jumped from the walls just to get away. When the city later burned, he performed on stage as flames rose in the distance. To him it was beauty, not tragedy. His reign ended in chaos, but his passion for art, no matter how misplaced, became a lasting tale of how ego can twist talent into legend. Let's move to medieval France, where a case unlike any other was recorded in court documents. A pig was put on trial for murder. It had attacked a child, and the villagers demanded justice. The animal was dressed in human clothes, brought before a judge, and sentenced to death. The execution took place in public. Historians later found dozens of similar cases where animals were tried for crimes. It sounds as absurd, yet it reveals how deeply medieval society believed that order must be preserved, even if it meant giving law to beasts. Now let us glide over to Britain in the 19th century, where a man named John Murray III opened a bookstore with an unusual twist. Instead of selling books, he rented them like a library, but for the wealthy. To become a member, readers had to pass a moral check. Certain novels were banned for being too emotional or imaginative. The store became so powerful that authors wrote their works to fit its strict rules. In a quiet way, it shaped English literature for decades. Let's wander into another strange moment of science and superstition. In the early 20th century, a British engineer named Charles Parsons built a massive steam-powered ship called the Turbinia Asterisk. It was the fastest vessel in the world. When officials refused to let him demonstrate it at a royal event, he simply sailed straight into the naval parade at top speed, leaving warships motionless in his wake. The crowd gasped. The Navy panicked. But that bold stunt forced the world to adopt steam turbines for every future ship. Sometimes the bizarre is just bravery in disguise. Now let us pause in the shadows of history to hear the quiet footsteps of a forgotten genius. Nikola Tesla. The man who dreamed of wireless power and a world connected by energy alone. Late in his life, he became obsessed with pigeons. He fed them daily and claimed that one white pigeon spoke to him through light in its eyes. To most, it sounded like madness. Yet the same mind that imagined lightning in human hands found peace in the wings of a bird. His inventions built the modern world, but his solitude built the myth. Let's end this journey with one final tale from the heart of Africa. In the 19th century, explorers searching for the source of the Nile met tribes who practiced rituals that defied all logic. Among them were ceremonies where people danced for days without stopping, believing movement kept the world alive. They said if they rested, the earth would sleep forever. Anthropologists later found similar beliefs in other ancient cultures. Perhaps in some forgotten way they were right. For history too must keep moving. It must dance to stay alive. Every era carries its own form of strangeness. From pharaohs who outlawed gods to kings made of glass to inventors who shocked themselves in pursuit of truth. The bizarre is not the edge of history. It is the pulse that reminds us how unpredictable the human spirit can be. So when you hear the stories of great empires and noble wars, remember the stranger tales that hid behind them. The dreamers. The fools. The fearless minds who turn their odd ideas into echoes that still shape our world. And as we close this journey, let's float once more through the corridors of time where the unbelievable always waits just beneath the surface, ready to remind us that history is never only serious. It is strange, beautiful, and endlessly human.